Celtic Badass of the Week showcases a different badass person of Celtic heritage each week. Those who exemplify the give no shit attitude and come out on top. They may come from our past or our present, but rest assured they come from all walks of life and legend. They are men, women, even old ladies and pirate queens. You don't have to be a muscled-up Celt in a fur kilt swinging a mighty sword. You can just be a 4'11" Welsh woman and suffragette who knows jujitsu. Most of these badasses are all too real. While some may be only legend, badass legends though. The only prerequisite for this title is Celtic blood and badassedness.
This week's Celtic badass, Robert the Bruce. The King of Scotland, Robert the Bruce, was a badass mother who eventually took his head out of his own ass and, inspired by William Wallace, an even badasserer mother and an unnamed spider, won independence for Scotland. Now, it's claimed that Robert the Bruce hid out like a little bitch, deposed, after his disastrous first year as King of Scots. Legend tells us that, while waiting out the winter in 1306 in a cave, he watched a spider on the cave wall try time and again to spin its web. Every time the spider fell, it rose to begin again, ever vigilant and persistent to complete the task at hand. Bruce took this to be an omen and resolved to get his badassery back on. Now, Bruce had paid homage to Edward I of England in the past, mainly due to family allegiance and to enrich his name with lands and titles. But much like his father had done before him, and it's not known why he changed his allegiance later, but it has been thought that the romance surrounding William Wallace's fight for independence showed him the true plight of his country. That if a commoner could rise to such badassery and accomplish so much for the cause of freedom, then that should be his true path. In 1306, in the Greyfriars Church at Dumfries, he met with his rival for the throne to hash out a compromise. So when that bastard attacked him with a hidden sword, he murdered his only possible rival for the throne, John Comyn. But for his trouble, he was excommunicated for this sacrilege. Killing someone in church, that's a bad thing. Nevertheless, he was crowned King of Scotland just a few months later. Robert the Bruce was defeated in his first two battles against the English and became a fugitive, hunted by both Comyn's friends and the English. Robert the Bruce was a battlefield badass. He warred treacherously with his political opponents, fought off foes in northern England and Ireland, and won a historic victory over Edward II's army at the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314. Robert, he had defeated a much larger English army under Edward II of England, confirming the re-establishment of the independent Scottish kingdom. Now, the battle marked a significant turning point, with Robert's armies now free to launch devastating raids throughout northern England. Now, while also extending his war against the English to Ireland by sending his, dunce of a brother Edward to invade there, and by appealing to the Irish to rise up against Edward II's rule. Now, despite Bannockburn and the capture of the final English stronghold at Berwick with the Black Douglas in 1318, that bastard Edward II refused to announce his claim on the overlordship of Scotland. So they resorted to the nuclear option. Oh, man, what could it be? Well, they penned a stern letter to the Pope. In 1320, the Scottish nobility submitted the Declaration of Arbroath to Pope John XXII, declaring Robert as their rightful monarch and asserting Scotland's status as an independent kingdom. In 1324, despite having excommunicated Robert the Bruce, the Pope, he recognized Robert first as king of an independent Scotland, basically because England was getting weaker and Scotland was getting stronger. And in 1320, he did that in 1326. The following year, the English deposed Edward II in favor of his son, Edward III. And peace was concluded between Scotland and England with the Treaty of Edinburgh, Northampton in 1328, by which Edward III renounced all claims to sovereignty over Scotland. Bruce was King of Scotland from 1306 to 1329. Robert the Bruce, he is buried in Dunfermline Abbey, and he is attributed to have said the following most badass quote ever. "We fight not for glory, nor wealth, nor honor, but only and alone for freedom, which no good man surrenders but with his life." Damn. Robert the Bruce. Badass.